Well, hello and welcome. Well, today we're looking at CDD survey on vote buying and also the EC's reforms. But my big question, my big underlying question is, if the politics is wrong, can anything else be right? If the politics is wrong, can anything else be right? I mean, the politics is in such a way that we are all competing for votes. And once you compete, then obviously there will be, maybe unfair means or tactical means for one or the other to win. And the person playing defense in any aspect of this world, whoever plays defense plays rough. So the CDD came up with a survey that said that, look, the NDC is a leader when it comes to vote buying, and then followed closely by the NPP in vote buying. Also, the survey goes further to say, well, about 64% of us say, look, we now have confidence in the EC that they will produce a good report. Some 40% are saying that, look, we still have our doubts. But today the EC has come up with further reforms as to how the election is going to go. So I'm thinking maybe if you do the survey after these new reforms, the numbers will go up. So in spite of everything, there's hope in the EC. So it's the whole package that we are bringing today. But my big question is, once the politics is wrong, what can be right in the country? I have two fine gentlemen in the studio who will explain all these things to us. My name is Anan Sakwal the Fourth. This is PM Express. I'm going to go for a quick break, show you two interviews to basically set the conversation rolling, and then I'll introduce my guest as well.
As you know, when overvoting happens, the Electoral Commission would cancel the results of that polling station, and the results would only, the elections would only be rerun if it is significant to the final outcome. Now, there were definitions that tied overvoting to the number of people on the register of that polling station, which would bring up the issue that has come up. If you have, let's say, 900 people at the polling station, it cannot be that all of them came to vote. So actually tying the definition of overvoting to the number of people on the polling station is what creates the problem. What we're saying is, we informed IPAC last year that the definition of overvoting that the EC would apply would be where the number of valid votes in the box exceeds the number of people who were verified to vote. So what we're actually doing closes that gap, because it ensures that if you have 900 people on a polling station, and only 820 came to vote, you can't pad it by 80, because the results are not tied to the number of people who are on the register, but to the number of people who have been verified to vote. And the number of people who have been verified to vote is a fact that anyone who was part of the process can confirm at any time, either by going to the machines or by also counting the number of manual verification forms. So it's a tighter definition. Again, it's something that we're looking at. We've had some engagement with the Ghana Bar Association and with the chartered accountants, and no, it's not exactly the JEGA model, because JEGA is running a federal system, and so you have state electoral commissioners, and so their structure is quite different from ours. And you also have to take your political culture into account when you are doing, if you are trying to copy an example from someone. I don't think that in Nigeria they have, what are groups called? TAIN, and then there's another one, TESCON, and all those. So you can't just, we can't take everything they're doing. But what we're trying to see is when we finish with all the main things we have to do with elections and the Commission approves, is to have at the constituency collation centers members of the Ghana Bar and the Institute of Chartered Accountants. When you are tallying in the collation process to remove errors, we think it may be beneficial to have another layer of checks. So you'd have the lawyers checking that the forms are properly filled, properly signed off, and then you'd have the accountants also making sure that as a lawyer, I don't think we're very good at counting. We'll have the accountants also check and make sure that the numbers have been added up properly. It's just another layer of checks, which brings another layer of integrity into the process, so that by the time we do the final tallying, we're all comfortable that the processes prior to that have been properly conducted and that the elections, the results actually reflect the will of the people of Ghana.
Well, thank you very much for staying. So, well, that's one part of the conversation. With me in the studio, directly next to me, is Dr. Eric Odro Osai, who's a lawyer and also the Dean of Graduate Studies and Research for Institute of Local Governance Studies. Doc, you're welcome.
Thank you, my brother.
And then I have David Agbe, who is also the Executive Director for Institute of Governance Studies.
No, it is Ghana Institute of Governance and Security, GIGS, G-I-G-X.
Let me get it. Ghana
Institute of Governance and Security, GIGS, G-I-G-X.
Very good, very good. You're welcome.
Thank you very much, Nana.
Thank you very much. I want us to start with preliminary comments, and David, I'll start with you. Last night there was a communique from the presidency that there's a remission on sentence for the Muntie 3. What are just your comments on it? Your views and just your comments, just brief.
Nana, thank you very much. I think the Muntie issue, I think, has engulfed the country for some time now. And so we were looking at a situation where we have a clear, if I could call it, determination of how we are all going to, buy into how the judiciary actually pronounce their judgment and how the politicians are also going to accept the decision by the Supreme Court. And to be able to do that and be able to understand all these things that we are talking about, one of the key things that we all need to look at is the Constitution. In public administration, in political science, that is what all of us were taught. I'm happy that Dr. Osai is also a political scientist, so he has it into his laboratory, if I could say so. We always say that if a country is challenged with a certain level of situation, you need to actually consult your constitution to look at the preambles and be able to read through what is the constitution talking about. And then you'll be able to come out with a conclusion that this is what needs to be done and this is what we all need to also avoid. And so reading the constitution, I think the Article 72 gives some level of comfort to the executive. And the executive, which constitute the president and the ministers. In public administration, again, says that the president has obligation to the constitution and to the law of the land. And so everything that you do, you need to apply the constitution. And reading Article 72 gives a certain level of power for the president to do what he has done. But initially, when the issue came up,
very brief,
I said right from day one that the decision or the pronouncement by the court was harsh. But then it was also meant to sanitize the system, making sure that we all play the game, not just jump onto radio or TV by speaking English or by speaking Akan or whatever language. But you need to be able to appreciate the fact that we all need to be measured in our level of communication so that we don't post a threat.
In conclusion, are you pro the decision or against the decision?
Nana, I think that
very brief.
My point is that I respect the constitution of the land, and somebody who speaks on governance and security, I think that I cannot do anything without consulting the constitution. And so whatever the constitution says is what I will go by. And so we all need to be able to read through and appreciate what the constitution talks about, and then we'll be able to inform ourselves whether it is a good judgment or the president erred. And looking into the constitution, I think that the constitution says that the president has that prerogative, especially Article 72D, reading through one by one.
I get your point there.
Yeah.
Let me go on the phone and then acknowledge Yusuf Al-Hassan Ayuba, who is a PRO for the Electoral Commission. Yusuf, you there?
Yeah, good evening.
Good evening. Don't worry, I'm not going to ask you about your take on the Muntie 3. Hello, Yusuf, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, Nana.
Very good. I said, I'm not going to ask you about your take on the Muntie 3.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, now before I bring Dr. Inle, today the EC came up with some set of reforms. I know 27 of them. We can't go through all, but just if you explain to us just a few key ones to set our conversation rolling now. Now, number one, before this reform, 63% of the country said, look, they had faith in the EC. There was 46 who were a bit dodgy. Maybe with these reforms, you could get your numbers up.
Yeah, thank you very much, Nana. Good evening to your panelists in the studio. The survey that the CDD brought up, the Electoral Commission had a copy. We looked at the survey. We've deliberated on the survey, and we think that it's a good thing for the Electoral Commission. We need to work on especially the part that people said they didn't have confidence in the Electoral Commission. The Commission thinks that we should do more education on some of the aspects of the Commission's work. So we've taken that aspect very seriously, and would work to enhance that part so that people will especially understand what the Commission does, so that those perceptions going forward would go up like those who said they have confidence in us. So we're taking the research very seriously, and we'll work on it.
Very good. And I must congratulate you, because since you took up your role, there's a lot of information flowing from the EC. We are not even chasing information. Information is actually coming to us. So let me congratulate you for that. You're very media friendly.
Thank you, Nana.
Now, the one thing which came up in one of your reforms was that if, let's say, the number was used, 900 people were registered at multimedia, and 700 people come to vote today, and we count 705, the EC now is saying that will be classified as overvoting. However, during the Supreme Court, it was said that, look, so far as 900 people are registered to vote today, if the number of ballot boxes in the number of ballots in the box don't exceed the 900 which are registered here, then it's ballot stuffing and this. So, I mean, what should the voter work with now? If I go to my polling station, what do I work? Do I work with you, or do I work with the Supreme Court?
Nana, we are saying that at the end of voting, if the number of vote cast exceeds the number who were verified, both using the BVD and using the manual verification, then we would say that there has been overvoting at the center. When the issue of overvoting comes up, the Electoral Commission has other means of checking whether actually there has been an overvoting. We have validating stamps specifically for each of the polling stations that we have. So you realize that for parliamentary, there's a separate validating stamp, and for presidential ballots, there's a separate validating stamp which is specific to each polling station, and those validating stamps have been tracked. So at the end of the elections, when sorting is going out, it is one of the key things that we look out for, to check whether those ballots have those validating stamps specifically assigned to those polling stations. And if those are checked, and we have the same number of votes cast as validated using the validation stamps, and we cross-check with the number verified, both manually and using the BVD, then it means that everything at the polling station is intact. But after counting, if the number of ballots in the ballot box is more than the number that has been verified, then it is termed that center has overvoted. But we will not draw a conclusion until we have done all the checks. And if the checks that we do, we draw a conclusion that the ballot at the center has the right validating stamp, and the number is more than the total number of persons verified, then we'll classify it as overvoting.
What's the consequence for a police station that's caught out?
It will depend on the numbers. If, for example, we have a polling station where we have about 850 persons on the register, and at the end of the voting, we would have more than 1,000 people, voting. Meanwhile, not more than 850 went through the verification device to verify. Then we would cancel or annul that particular election. But then we would look at the figures. If the cancelled result or the number that we say has overvoted, we would look at the differences between the two, between the first and the second. If the number that has is cancelled would either affect will let the second candidate catch up with the first candidate, then a rerun would be done. But if we realize that the differential, the first candidate has more votes than the annulled one, then it means that we'll just cancel it and let it stay. Okay,
so basically, those are the police stations just to make sure that they don't get themselves caught up with all these technicalities.
Yes, Nana.
The other thing also is increasing the educational standards of people who will supervise these polling stations. How are you going about that?
Nana, it is very, very important. If you look at what happened in 2012, where some presiding officers could not write clearly the figures against the numbers that we have. So one of the recommendations of the Reform Committee was that we should recruit persons who at least have a basic qualification. At least a presiding officer should have a minimum educational background of at least a degree. And also, if we are supposed to recruit teachers, they should be senior officials of the Ghana Education Service for the category of presiding officers, because the presiding officer is going to preside. He or she would fill, important forms at the polling station, that the declaration of results sheet. It is the presiding officers who are going to fill it. So we've taken that recommendation seriously, and we will make sure that we will recruit persons who we think that can do the work very well. And also at the collation center, formerly we used to have the returning officer, in the morning we'll deploy all the materials, go for supervision, make sure everything is intact. Then in the evening, would come and sit down and collate. The person would be very, very tired. So we are going to recruit a collation officer who will not take part in any activity until the results are brought from the polling stations. Then he will take charge of the collation of the results, and the returning officer can declare the results. So those category of persons would also, the commission has spoken to a number of, professional groups who are willing, to support the protest. But then it is not going to be a blanket, people are not going to be allowed to just come in because they have those higher qualifications. They will go through screening. They would also, apply to do the work, and they will go through screening. You can employ, an accountant who has no integrity, who is not, coming to do the work because he or she wants to do it for Mother Ghana, but has his or her own parochial interest. So we would make sure that we check all these things in order to recruit the best, caliber of professionals who would assist us in the collation of the results come December 2016.
The no verification, no vote, does it still stand, or that's squashed now?
Ideally, all persons are supposed to go through verification. But then there are some people who, by no fault of theirs, cannot go through the verification. So we've made provision for manual verification. But then it is not going to just be that because the person has not been able to go through. There are checks and balances. There's a form that the presiding officer would fill. The party agents would also counter and sign that form to make sure that the person is actually authorized. The person was not able, before you even put your finger on the verification device, your barcode on the register is scanned and your picture pops up on the device before you'll be allowed to put your finger. So that in itself is an aspect of verifying that person is actually the person on the register. So when that is done and the person puts his or her finger on the device and it is not able to capture, then we'll resort to the manual verification. Like I have said, the presiding officer will pick a form, he will fill the form, then all the party agents will also counter-fill the form to validate that person was not able to go through the verification device, and those persons would be accounted for at the end of poll.
One last one before I let you go. It says the reform number 15. The EC must ensure that election officials who breach electoral laws are sanctioned. How's that going to happen? Because we never saw anybody get punished or called.
Yes, Nana. Previously, all the election officials, that's the temporal election officials, usually swear an oath before a senior officer of the Electoral Commission. But one of the considerations is that if they swear before a judicial officer, then they would take the exercise that they are going to do more seriously. And if they go against any of the rules and regulations, then there can also be appropriate sanctions that would go with those violations. So now they are all going to swear before a judicial officer, where the rules and regulations would be outlined to. And if they go against those rules and regulations deliberately, then the law would take its course.
Thank you very much. Thank you for that insight. Thank you. Let me come to studio and go straight to Doctor. You do your preliminary comments on Munti.
Munti 3. All right.
The brief one.
Thank you, Nana. I think the president has exercised his powers of prerogative of mercy under Article 72. We've all heard it. There's little we can do at this stage because he's not flouted anything in the Constitution. But the lessons there for us as a country is that we need to take a second look at our Constitution, especially Article 72 1D, the one my colleague mentioned. And because it is open-ended, the remission can be applied to any offense committed by any other individual. So what I think we need to do is that we need to bring clarity to bear. We need to bring clarity to bear. For instance, we can mention the categories of offenses that, for instance, the president can exercise his powers of prerogative of mercy. Secondly, we can also bring clarity to bear in the areas of the president allowing those people to have exhausted the entire opportunities for them in terms of the justice delivery system. For instance, the case was at the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court made its ruling. After that, they had the right of appeal or review. You appeal for review once, twice. So after exhausting all of that, and then maybe they should have served maybe half the sentence or something. So if we can bring clarity to bear on all of this, it will help. But on the face of the law, the president has not done anything wrong. He's exercised his powers as required by Article 72 1D, and that's it.
Thank you very much. Now, we're moving on to the subject of vote buying. CDD has done a survey, and it's turned up that, according to them, the NDC is more, prone to vote buying, and the next one is the MPP. It's not because they don't want to buy votes. It says opposition, much opposition. It's canasa. So it's not that they don't want to buy the votes, but the means are not there. If power was to switch, and 8 years time you do the same survey, I'm sure But that's why I ask: if the politics is not right, can anything else be wrong? Our politics is such that we are competing for votes. We have economy that's, the average income is, the minimum wage is 7 cedis a day. So you go out and you have to pay 10, to mommy. I mean, what do you speak? I don't even know how to react.
No, you see, it's a creation of the law. I think the Political Parties Act makes provision for people to contribute to political parties, but the law is silent on how they benefit. How can we operate this law? The law requires citizens to make contributions to support political parties, but the same law is silent on how they benefit. So do we think people don't benefit? They benefit. Then how do they benefit? Unfortunately for us, we haven't clearly defined what is meant by vote buying in our laws. We have electoral offences. Unfortunately, all those offences relate to those that have to do with casting your votes, misrepresentation, and all of that. We haven't addressed our minds to the bit about unduly influencing voters to vote for you. The question I'm asking myself is, what exactly constitutes vote buying? If we can clearly define it, then we can hold politicians culpable for that. But whichever way you look at it, I think when politicians need power, they may want to do all kinds of things. They may want to tell you that, look, these are my followers. Even those who don't follow them, they want to influence them. They want to give them something. They want to show appreciation. The challenge has always been the timing. The other challenge has also been that if you are in government and you are not able to clearly separate the things you do as a government or as an incumbent government from what the party will do, then people will commingle your private activities with that of the political parties. And that is where the challenge is. If indeed all politicians will be clear in their minds and come clean in terms of separating their private resources or parties' resources from state resources, it will really help. But the law really has not helped us as a nation.
David, could it be unfair? Even though people say, "Oh, president has got the opportunity of incumbency," but can it be also a disadvantage where whether you like it or not, I'm the president. National security won't let me go alone. They would have to all convoy me there. And so when I'm coming, am I coming as an ordinary citizen coming to campaign, or am I coming to campaign as a president? Is there a thin line, or is it just that politicians are just taking advantage of it?
No, I think that is why you started by setting it that if the politics is right or wrong. Politics is a very complex thing all over the world. And that is why Aristotle, one of the founding fathers of political science, he says politics and political science is the master science of all science. So it is a very difficult for people to actually understand politics. And again, Hans Magintor, the founder of international relations, says that politics is not based on legalistic or moralistic. And so therefore, understanding politics is always a very difficult thing, unless you are in there into your laboratory to see and be able to look at the political psychology of how people take decisions, and then how that decision, whether it is going to benefit some group of people or not. But coming directly into your questions, I think that vote buying in this country, it is something that nobody can say that politicians do not buy, vote at all. They do. I remember vividly, was it 1992 or 1996? They even tagged the former president, Jerry John Rawlings, that during his time, there were some vote buying somewhere. You remember, I don't know whether you remember Bentua.
Yes.
They said in Sefi areas, they were distributing Bentua and all other stuff. I mean, and then when, after, former President Rawlings and President Kufuor took over, the same thing. Along the line, President Kufuor was almost doing the same thing. And it is not different at all. All over the world, it has happened before. But this time, are we to let those things happen in our country? And the good news is that CDD, Professor Jimabwedi, has written extensively on that topic. And it is not Professor Jimabwedi, Dr. Bob Miller, Dr. Edu, and other serious political scientists have written a lot on that subject, that vote buying is something that is posing a political threat to this country. However, our circumstances, I remember even Paul Nugent, he came down to Ghana, he's one of the strong political scientists. He also wrote on that, the political system in Ghana here is a complex thing, and people do what you call the vote buying. They do it. In the African continent, a lot of research has been done that politicians do vote buying. Take it for instance, the president went to, was it Azim? And then we saw him, and party faithfuls distributing all those things. And then after that, we saw other political parties also doing cocoa and all that. What are they trying to do? Now, when, you are chief, when you go to, your place, and then the mood of the people suggests that you need to do something for them. What are you doing? Because of your interest, because you want your throne to be there. And that is how politicians are. When they go to Azim or any other part of, they will do evaluation. You go to Nana, you go to other chiefs and all other people. They say, this is our needs. Provide our needs for us. If not, we are not going to vote for you. So as a political person, what do you need to do? You need to give the needs or the want to the people for you to be able to get their vote. So you are using your influence, more or less, to buy the conscience of the people one way or the other.
Okay, David, let me take a break, but I want to stay with you on this culture aspect that you've rooted it in. Because it is in our nature to give things. You dare not come to my palace, and I'm using their, advice.
I'm told you've not been doing that anyway.
No, but you see, generally, you can't go into any chief's palace and just say, Maba.
How did you come?
Exactly. Uba is saying, and even if you bring one bottle, they'll say you're standing on one leg talking to the chief.
Yes.
Bring two. So if this is our custom and culture of giving, could it be what has then generally spread, and that maybe we should now allow it legally that, look, in our politics, because Ghanaians like receiving gift, go around the gift. I'm coming back. Don't go. Thank you very much for staying, but this issue is very complex, and we're looking at the issue of vote buying. And the moment the CDD has done a survey and is saying the NDC is leading, followed closely by the MPP, which means we are all vote buying. Even the PPP and CPP, we're all in there vote buying, and you can see how they buy. They buy according to the might of the party. It just follows that trajectory. And David was in the flow, and I broke. But David, you see, what I'm saying is that we live in a culture where, and even though I'm using the accounts as an example, I'm sure all the way up north, and wherever it is, if you're going to go to any traditional setting, number one, you need to go and find out the owner or the leader of those people. And you can't just turn up and say, I'm here to campaign. How? You have to bring something.
Yeah.
It could be a token, it could be something serious, depending on how you want to come and campaign, and then you enter. And once you've entered the place, There will be men there. You have to give them something. Go and buy a couple of bottles for this evening. There will be ladies there. Probably go and buy cooking oil or whatever it is. We are always giving, even if it's not politics. Even if just a visitor came into town today, they haven't come for any politics. They don't particularly have any interest. They are most likely to give something.
If they're transferring pastors from one church to the other, they do it. They see the pastor off.
Yeah.
And then even in international arena, in diplomacy, they do it. They find a way of trying to corner you so that you'll be able to accept something. And later on, they've already tightened your hands. And so, taking a decision at a certain point in time, I mean, you are caught between. You have to.
So my question then is that, should we then accept that, look, in our culture, maybe giving is part of our culture. Whether you were going to campaign or not, you would have given me something anyway. And then regulate the giving, I don't know.
No, we shouldn't regulate it. But what is accounting for that scenario is what we would call the patron clientelism. You are the patron, you are Nana, and I am your client. So, politician, an MP, a minister, president, he goes to a village or somewhere, Greater Accra or whatever it is. He is the patron. The president is the chief bureaucrat. And so, whilst he goes in there, he has what Professor Amos calls, yes. So he has the money. He can instruct the finance minister or whatever it is. This is what we are going to use for our campaign. And so whilst he goes in there, the people are there demanding, something. That president, this is what we want you to do for us.
Our roads.
Exactly. Our roads. Do it for us.
They started though, so let me congratulate them. I think they're about 30%.
Oh, at your place?
Yes.
Oh, that's quite reasonable.
Yes, because it was absolute hostile terrain. Now they've scarified it and put the roller on it, but now they have to put the sand and then carry on. So just as I'm praising you, Pamucho, before election.
That's a great one. So the game is just like, patron and client. You see? So you give me this, I also give you this. But the fundamental point is that it is because of poverty in our part of the continent. That is why some of these things, play a critical role in our electioneering, season. That in the developed countries, they've done it before, but now they are no more doing it because of development, because they have their basic needs of life. But go to my village or your village or wherever, and then somebody, a president, has bought a phone for me, an iPad for me, or whatever it is. Am I not going to accept it? I will accept it because of what? Lack of, scarcity of certain level of resources that is not available. So I will accept it and cast my vote for the person. But Nana, you who betides that politicians to come and give you 50 Ghana cedis. But the person who is a peasant, living in that peasant society, who accept it because of his circumstances. So politicians all over the world find a way of bribing us, smartly for us to vote for them during election time, based on the assessment that you are a weaker candidate. And so what can I do to be able to massage you? And then at the end of the day, you also cast your vote for me. So it is about using your power to influence other people to get what you want, to entrench your political position. And don't forget, politics is about power, it is about influence, and it is about authority. And so you need to be able to understand the game and play according to the game to ensure that you strengthen your political power.
See, is it not putting too much cost on the party? And therefore, by the time the party comes into power, you are so much in debt, either in cash or favors or somehow. You're just so much indebted. T-shirts, billboard, you have to transport your supporters to follow you to go and campaign, give them food, water, drink, bring them back home. So by the time you win power, this guy helped you, he helped you, your bank account is dry, so how then do you have a sincere government when you are so much in debt?
See, politicians, they've brought it upon themselves. Indeed, there is no law in this country that requires of them to come out with flamboyant campaigns. They brought it upon themselves, and I see politics now become an investment for people, you know. And we realize that when the EC came out clearly that politicians or political parties would have to publish their accounts, you saw the number of days and months it took political parties to publish their financial statement. It tells you that now parties have grown, and the business of politics is like investment. We will be able to regulate it. As I said, the political parties' law is not helping us. It's telling us how people should contribute, but not how people should benefit. If we can really regulate the beneficial aspect of it, people will be very careful, very circumspect about how they spend on elections. We're talking about vote buying. People are of the view that, I mean, the perception there is that, look, I'm going to vote for you. I'm looking for a job for you. Once you get the job, it is your job. If you go and don't come back again, I have nothing to do. This is my cocoa season. Let me get what I need from you before you get there. If we will be able to conscientize and reorient people that it is not about looking for a job for somebody, but it's about you sending the person to go and speak for you so that you get development. If you send the person and the person is not speaking for you to get development, you have the right to recall the person. For that matter, you don't need to be paid. But the question then is, Party A will do it. Party A will say they will not do it. Party B will do it. Then you become disadvantaged. So then let us all do it. So I would go for the regulation. I would say that we should be very clear in our laws how political parties should be funded. But again, I'm also very positive that we should make provisions about how people should benefit. Because we have party financiers. Why do you think they finance it? We have people who sell their houses to go and then contest elections. We have people who sell cars to contest elections. When they come to power, definitely they want to recoup this investment. How do you expect them to recoup the investment? It becomes a cycle. So if we are not able to cure this management of elections, management of politics, it becomes a canker in society, and it will be very, very, very difficult for us to eradicate it because it will get to the top.
I made a proposal. I don't know if it's that, you know, if as a policy, general policy, to say, look, no party T-shirts, no billboards, no this, no all these little things that cost money. If there's a law to say, look, it's no more allowed. So the NDC or the NPP know, look, I don't have to print T-shirts because you can't wear T-shirts. I can't do billboards, or maybe just have two at some vantage points, and that's it. To reduce the cost so that you're not so much in debt. I mean, is it feasible, or would that be too drastic?
No, that is not politics. Politics comes with some of all those variables.
But at the moment, you see, it's costing us more to run this democracy than it is to actually run the country.
No, even those people who brought it as far back 1776, that American had its independence from the Great Britain, they are faced with such a challenge. And so a lot of people have written books, call it the challenge of democracy. But then, now we can't go back to the authoritarian system of governance. We've migrated, we've moved on. Now, although democracy is a very difficult and complex thing for us, but then we don't have any alternative, form of government anymore. So we need to be able to play within the confines of democracy and try as much as possible to do it better. Vote buying is not something that we should say that it is good and it is normal. But then it is because of the fact that, our underdevelopment is what is posing some of these things. Now, if you have your own house, you have, your own, whatever it is, do you think that a politician will bring you, 5 CDs or whatever it is? No, that person will not bring you the cocoa. He will be thinking of how he can get your road, construct well for you so that your people will also have that sense of belonging that, oh yes, Nana was able to convince politicians to come and do these developmental projects for me. School, those basic needs like schools, hospitals, road constructions, and other amenities that will actually energize the people that we also belong to a society. Because politics is about human beings, it is about people, it is about society. How we can make society better. And society could get better when we have education, when we have health, when we have road construction and other amenities, water, those basic necessities of life, if we are able to, have all those things, and at the end of the day, get something in our pocket, you should have that financial independence. But if you don't have that financial independence, at the end of the day, somebody somewhere will bribe your conscience.
Let me take a quick break here, and then on the subject of financial independence, if you look at the speed at which the students are failing in their schools, if you look at how industries are struggling, if you look at the rich-poor divide and the percentage that are making it and the huge masses that are not making it, when is it going to get to the time when we'll actually be getting, roads instead of baskets and headpans? Does it mean we are doomed? Don't go. And some bit of good news. Roberman Q3 play is up. Sankofa to tell the family it's homecoming time. Roberman Production and Airtel, in partnership with Joy Prime and Adum TV, present the 8th anniversary homecoming play, Sankofa by Uncle Ebo White. Sankofa is a laughter-filled non-stop action play that's worth watching in good company. And the dates are 27th and 28th of August and 23rd and 4th September 2016. Venue, National Theatre. Time, 4 p.m. and 8 p.m. each day. And trust me, Uncle Ebo, 4 p.m. If there are 2 people in the hall, he will start the play. So to be there on time. Rate is 80 Ghana cedis. Now the ticket outlet is via Airtel Money, all Airtel shops, Capital Bank branches, Joy FM, Shell shops at Airport, Dansuman, Sakaman, Malam, Tema, Community 11, and Achimota and East Legon, Bachona and Hachototo, Jane Ann Supermarket, Motorway Supermarket, Frankie's, Osu, and 37 Goal. Now the hotline is 026 109 4100, or you can send them a WhatsApp on 026 109 4664, or visit the new website on www.rovermanproductions.com. The main sponsors are Airtel, the smartphone network. Other sponsors, Capital Bank, Rover Report Monthly, Logistic Movers, and DDP Outdoors. Media partners are CTFM, Varsat 1, My Joy Online, Adum TV, Joy Prime, Graphic Communications Group, Daily Guide, BNFT, Enjoy Accra, Pulse.com, and WebSoft Solutions. Sankofa, get your ticket now. This is Roverman Productions, and this is Be the Difference. And I'm coming straight to Dr. Science. He said, listen, if what David is saying that this is the best there is, then we might as well all go and buy our coffins and, find a piece of land and, don't even waste time, because we are doomed. I mean, if anybody is going to be true to themselves, we are doomed with this system.
And there is hope. And while there's life, there's hope. And that is why discussions like this is very important. We continue to sensitize people. We continue to explain to people why they shouldn't sell their votes, why they should support politicians, and why politicians should also live up to expectations by going back to the people.
But you've had 3 square meals today. You're not even thinking of what you eat tomorrow.
Yeah, that's right. But when you look at our laws, one way or the other, we anticipated some of these things, and then provisions were made. The challenge is that we are not forthcoming when it comes to full operationalization of the law. When you look at the Political Parties Act, especially Section 14, it's clear that 21 days before we go into any general elections, all the political parties are required to declare their assets, their liabilities, and then expenditure relating to the elections. 21 days into the elections, you give it to the Electoral Commission. After the elections, 6 months after, you bring your assets as well. So in that case, it helps us as a nation to be able to track your election expenditure and to be able to know whether, even if you won the elections, you had liabilities which would have to be serviced as a result of using state resources or not. We haven't been able to operationalize to the fullest all of this. But I think it boils down to sensitization and awareness raising and education. Gradually we'll get there. Those who have done it to perfection started from somewhere. We are nowhere near 50 years. I'm very positive that we'll get there, except that we have to fast track the process.
Aren't we starting from where they have ended? like those who started democracy said, look, you don't understand it. Sit, wait. You don't pay tax. Wait, you don't do this. Wait. And then gradually everybody got the concept of, well, this is what the whole thing is about. And then, okay, now you can join in. But with us, you see somebody who's in the queue to vote and you're wondering, this person's vote is the same as the president? Does he even know why?
But the challenge is that we are copying blindly. I keep on saying this. Developed countries have higher level of literacy rates. People can read in between the lines. People can read and write. People understand the issues. Come to our part of the world. The literacy rate may not be as high as we expected. There are people who go to vote without really not understanding why they are voting. There are people who go to vote because of what somebody has told them. There are people who vote even when they've not even seen the party's manifesto. There are people who even vote because of something somebody has told them. So all of this needs boils down to education. If we are able to raise the literacy rate, if we are able to get our people to understand the democracy we are practicing, if we are able to evolve the African or the Ghanaian type of democracy that will suit our system, I think gradually we'll make some headway. But I think we have copied blindly and we have set ourselves very high a standard in such a way that it is really affecting us.
And we can't go back.
To some extent. We can't go back. We don't have any alternative forms of government now. What we do have is democracy now. So, until maybe next generation.
But what democracy that if somebody doesn't give you money, you can't vote? If somebody doesn't give you money, you can't check your register? Is that also democracy?
Nana, are you surprised about some of these things? Just like Dr. Osai said. Just this year, on the 19th of April, Ghana Institute of Governance and Security, we issued a press statement telling politicians that we've realized that they've not been, telling the public what they need to do as far as election is concerned, especially the manifesto lines. They've not been doing, they'll wait until 3 months down the line or 2 months down the line, then they'll come out with their bulky manifesto where, Nana, you wouldn't be able to get the opportunity to analyze whatever they've put into their policy document. And so, yes, when they even print it, about 20 copies, they will share it among some group of people. They will not even give copies to political scientists or think tanks or other big people to be able to review it and understand that, yes, this is what is good or not. And then they will just go, there and start shouting from the rooftop. And then people will buy into it. And so it comes with that level of intellectual ability to be able to understand some of these things. And that is why the former president, Kwame Nkrumah, said that one of the critical things that he wants to do in this country, first of all, is to educate the citizens. Try as much as possible to eliminate disease and then use a certain word, ignorance. When the people are empowered, it will reduce the incidence of ignorance. And so now that we are confronted with such a challenge, what we need to do, just like Nana, you have to look for, opportunity somewhere so that your people will be more educated at your place. When they are more educated and they have the basic needs of their life, they will also have that sense of belonging to the country and to your community. And so we need to be able to distribute our resources, at least if it is not fair, considerable ones need to be apportioned to every towns and villages constituency, so that at least somebody somewhere sitting somewhere will also feel like a Ghanaian. But as it is now, the disparities, some people are living in Accra, they've never visited even their hometown, they've neglected all the people, and then the peasant farmer somewhere, every day, trying to do what it takes for him to be recognized as a human being. And we are here in Accra speaking big English without providing the needs, the social need, the common need for ordinary people. They also have to have that sense of belonging as a human being. And so that is what politicians need to be thinking about. There are a lot of ministers coming from the north, Volta region and other places. The people are drinking, water from the same wells, just like animals and what have you. But they tend to, when they come to Accra here, they forget about whatever is happening in their village.
Bottled water.
You see, so we need to be able to provide basic necessities of life for other people, for them to also feel that yes, God created those people. If we are not able to do that, then we are not actually studying politics, because politics is about human being. It is about developing society.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And once again, I remind all of you who went to Nkwatia Secondary School that the former headmaster, Mr. L.M. Owusu, passed, and his burial will be 27th of August at Atomic Hills Demonstration Park. And he left behind his wife, Ma, who used to make kokonte and red for us. So all of you who went to enjoy some of the kokonte and the red, make sure you turn up. And one of my favorite politicians also passed, Colonel Minyela, who's also going to be buried on the 27th of August in Navrungo. So all of you who are up there, turn up. You know, Colonel Minyela was a great guy, and I think the nation done him a great disservice by writing me out of history. But one day I will get people here to talk about what a good man that man was and what he did for Koforidua. But 0243 366 2001 Tantis Fashions, they make my shirts. Give them a call and get yourself a nice shirt. But gentlemen, thank you so much.
Thank you, Nana.
We'll have to continue this conversation.
Nana, your time is so short.
Thank you.